The time being 6 o'clock, I'll declare the meeting open and acknowledge the visitors in the gallery. And I'll now like to go to acknowledgement of country. We wish to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land in which we are meeting on, the Wandandi people. We wish to acknowledge and respect their continuing connection to the land, waters and community. We pay our respects to all members of the Aboriginal community and their culture and their elders past and present, their descendants who are with us today and those who will follow in their footsteps. Item 2, record of attendance. We have an apology from Councillor Hastie. Members in the public gallery, response to previous public questions taken on notice, there is none, but we do have a public question time. And we have a series of questions, and could the first person question come to the podium? Russell Atwood. Mr. Atwood's not present, then I'll read the question. Russell Atwood, Daniela. This question relates to understanding nuisance barking rectification actions by the Shire Rangers. Can the Shire please release for the last 5 years the following information? Answer. Statistics are for 1 year of data. If 5 years were required, that will be needed to take it on notice and requires further reports and staff time to obtain. Question 1. How many nuisance barking inquiries have been received from the public? Response. 36. How many Form 7s, in brackets, complaint as to nuisance created by dog, were completed and returned? Response. 11. How many nuisance dogs barking investigations have been executed by the Rangers? Answer. 11. Question 4. How many noise abatement notices have been issued by the Rangers? The answer is none. In answer to the 0 noise abatement notices issued for the 11 cases investigated, 1 case, insufficient evidence of a dog barking, 10 cases, the risk to a neighbourhood amenity was mitigated through a community education service provided by the Rangers. Key communication strategies included advice and support in the form of requesting advising that the owners A, keep their dog inside when not at home, B, consider physical barriers such as reducing visibility through fences, C, the use of bark collars which greatly reduced or ceased barking, or enabling to get the barking down to a manageable level. Thank you. I may now move on to the next question. Kevin Williams from Boyanup. Is Kevin present? Kevin's not present, so I'll read the question. What is proposed for Timberley Street traffic from the proposed housing project? Too many trees, road too narrow, in poor condition, not at all suitable for large-scale traffic usage. We know this for a fact. We lived on this road for 50 years. Also, surrounding roads, in brackets, some gravel, not suitable. What is proposed? Answer. Upgrades to Stephen Street have been recommended as a condition of approval. Further upgrades to the wider road network will need to be considered through future programs of works and in the context of future urban growth in the area. Question 2. What is proposed for the water problem laying in and on the land and affecting the already built houses along Timberley Street? Response. A detailed stormwater management plan in conjunction with an approved wastewater treatment system has been recommended as a condition of approval. This will inform management measures for water on the site. The next question is from Peter Nelson of Boyanup. Is Peter here tonight? Yep. Would you like to ask the questions yourself, Peter? That's normal. Thank you, Councillor Noonan.
First off, I've got to really catch some emotion out of this because I've been at this place on 33 Templey Street for 20 years. If any of you guys here think that this is a smart proposal, the question is...
If I dare to interrupt you...
Yep.
That's not the question you submitted.
Yep. Can you remind me what the question is? I've been very busy. Yeah.
Okay. Your first question was, who is responsible for the devaluation of our property?
100%, yep.
Okay. The answer, Perceived impacts on property values is not a valid planning consideration.
So you don't take any consideration of that whatsoever
It's
of
not allowable
devaluing my property by at least
I'm not going to get
$200,000.
into the weeds here, but it's not allowable under the Act.
Yep.
Okay. Question 2, do you want me to read that as well?
That was about the proposal. Are you going to knock all the trees down in Templey Street
I'll
to
read it
widen
in
it
detail. Would you
because
like
you're
me to
actually
read? No, please.
Yep.
We've got to stick to the question.
I'm reading the question that I've given. I remember that one. Because of the increase of 400%, there's 10 houses in our street.
No, that's not in your question.
Pardon? I beg your pardon?
It's not as you framed your question.
What are you doing with the trees in Templey Street?
I'll read your question.
Yep.
Okay. Will the Capel Shire be knocking all the trees down in Timberley Street, Boynup, to accommodate the traffic, as you, the Shire, will be approving more than a 400% increase just in our street alone? Now, it's consistent with what you were saying verbally, but it's not quite what it was. The response, works to Timberley Street will need to be considered through future programs of works and in the context of future urban growth in the area as it is subdivided for residential purposes in accordance with the Boynup East Local Structure Plan. That was the completion of your question. So thank you, Mr Nelson. Jacqueline McGreevy, Boynup. Is Jacqueline here tonight? Okay, I'll read Jacqueline's questions. Question 1, how does the Shire justify allowing a private developer to force a high-density cluster of 40 to 50 tiny homes into a quite rural area, completely overwhelming the existing character of the neighbourhood and creating severe, unavoidable impacts on privacy, noise, traffic, visual amenity and devaluation of the surrounding properties? And what specific and forcible measures will the Shire require to address each of these impacts in full? The response, while the area is currently predominantly rural in character, it is subject to the Boynup East Local Structure Plan, which identifies this area for urban and residential development to a standard urban density. The recommended conditions of approval included in the officer's report seek to detail management measures, further details to be provided and endorsed, and further approvals that were required for the development. Question 2 from Ms McGreevy. What planning assessment has the Shire undertaken to determine whether a development of this scale and intensity is even remotely compatible with a rural setting, and what binding projections will the Shire impose to ensure existing residents are not subjected to ongoing nuisance, disruption and loss of amenity as a result of this proposal? Response, while the area is currently predominantly rural in character, it is subject to the Boynup East Local Structure Plan, which identifies this area for urban and residential development to higher density. The assessment has considered the future character of the area as guided by the approved local structure plan. Thank you. Philip Wood, Boynup. Mr Wood, would you like to ask your questions? Indeed. Would you like me to read them?
Yes, please.
Philip Wood from Boynup. Question 1. A petition was submitted last year opposing the development of the tiny home community in Boynup. The petition gained in excess of 100 local signatures. As listed in the recent correspondence relating to the approval of the tiny home community, it outlines that the petition was in the incorrect format and cannot be considered. The question I would like to ask is why wasn't I informed by the Shire at the time of submission that it was not in the correct format, thus giving us time enough to rectify this error? The petition would then have been resubmitted and would have been able to be taken into consideration. The answer, the petition provided was not in the prescribed form to take directly to Council for consideration as a standalone item. However, the petition was incorporated and noted to Council through the submission process. The Council report details all submitted submissions from the public and government agencies. Question 2, would you like me to read that?
Yes, please. Yeah.
In relation to the tiny home community in Boynup, I'd like to draw attention to the comments made in the section Effluent Disposal and Stormwater Management. It outlines comment made by the developer when drilling to determine groundwater levels on the 22nd of the 10th, 2025. No perched groundwater was seen. That is not at all the case, as large sections of the land were soaked in groundwater with large puddles of stagnant water roughly 4 to 6 inches in depth. I have photographic evidence of this, of which I have attached. Therefore, the proposal contains inaccuracies regarding the water table level, and I would like to ask how this has not been considered. Further to this, the adjacent properties on Timperley Street rely on the water table to allow their leach drains to operate successfully. How will the Shire and the developer ensure this remains the case, noting as climate change takes effect and rainfall may increase during wetter months? The answer? The applicant undertook a revised site and soil evaluation at the request of the Shire and the Department of Health. It has been recommended as a condition of approval that detailed design as it related to stormwater and wastewater treatment are provided. The wastewater treatment system is required to be approved by the Department of Health and have the necessary separation from groundwater. Thank you.
So the photos of the water on top of the land?
They're not included in this, they were questions.
Okay, cool. Is there any for my wife while I'm here?
Pardon?
My wife's on some questions there. I can stand up and
Yes, she's the next question up.
She's absent. She's looking after the kids.
We have a question from, before we get to that, thank you. Before we get to that party, Sam Payne from Boynup. Sam, by all means come and ask your question, or if you'd like me to speak it to it. Okay, and we'll deal with this very promptly. It doesn't matter, Councillor Noonan. The land has a very high water table. How is sewage from toilets and roofing going to be controlled? Well, the response is identical to the one we just gave before. Okay, thank you. Radka Wood, Boynup. Radka? Beg your pardon?
She's sent me her questions, so I can read them out. So last year...
you're speaking on behalf of Radka?
I am indeed, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Last year, the developer posted on Facebook a post promoting the tiny home development in Boynup, of which he suggested that it had the support of the local community. This non-factual post was then reposted by Councillor Mogg, in which she gave full support of the development. The question I would like to ask is, has the Shire and its councillors remained impartial at all times during this process, of which could very well be debated considering it was publicly given full support? It could very well be seen to be a biased decision of which is unfair on the local community.
Thank you. The answer? Under the Local Government Act 1995 and the Local Government Model Code of Conduct Regulation 2021, it is the responsibility of individual councillors to assess and declare any interest, including impartiality interests, at the time the matter is considered by council. All council decisions are made through formal processes based on officer advice, relevant planning framework and legislation, and consideration of community submissions. Question 2.
Also, in relation to the tiny home development, it notes within the documentation within the Shire Council website that the road infrastructure of Timperley Street is sufficient to cope with the large increase of traffic. Has consideration been taken into the fact that this road is a single lane and there are no footpaths to protect the many people who choose this route to walk their dogs and the children that walk to the local school? This road is constantly being repaired on a yearly basis, even with a low level of traffic.
The answer? The assessment undertaken by Shire officers and included within the officers' report and recommended conditions acknowledge the requirement for upgrades to the road network. Thank you. Richard and Belinda Lee, Boynup, one of you or both of you? Richard, is it? Okay, would you like to take the podium, Richard?
I'll stand up here and you read the questions.
Beg your pardon?
I'll stand up here and then you can go ahead and read the questions.
Have you got the question with you?
Yeah,
you can read it out if you prefer. Or if you prefer I read it, I will.
You read it and I'll take up any further points that
Well, you can't add to it. You can only stick to the agenda.
Okay.
So do you want me to do it or are you going to do it?
I'll read them out. Having lived in the Capel Shire for many years, I've attended numerous planning meetings held by the Shire to seek community input on the development of East Boynup. At no stage was there ever any mention of any high-density park homes at this time. How can the Shire now consider a development accommodating residents and caretakers and pets and just 2.2 hectares of land located only 360 metres from the Preston River? The soil in this area has high clay content, there's no deep sewage in place, an inadequate stormwater system, all management, nothing in place of a sound environmental to give us sound environmental outcome. What precedent does this set for East Boynup?
Thank you. The answer. The proposed density is genuinely consistent with the R20 density as contained in the approved Boynup East Local Structure Plan. It has been recommended as a condition of approval that a detailed design as it relates to stormwater and wastewater treatment are provided. The wastewater treatment system is required to be approved by the Department of Health. Question 2.
Yeah, can the Shire guarantee that the existing ratepayers in Timpley Street, Stevens Street, Grey Street area will not be disadvantaged or have our properties devalued if this proposal goes ahead? Will we have to pay extra towards the cost of this extra infrastructure with the development of these home parks? Will the council consider the interests of the existing long-term ratepayers when considering this proposal?
The answer. The matters raised are not valid considerations in determining the planning application.
Right.
Now, the acting CEO has reminded me, and I'll come back to this, that I could have invited questions, but we might do it at the end. But we might go to Fiona John. Thank you.
Yeah. I've got her questions here.
No, well, they're not. We haven't received them on notice.
Oh, we've got Fiona John's questions. He's got.
Are you going to read Fiona John's questions, are you?
Yeah, I've got them here.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, question 1, or do you want me to read it?
you can read them out, yeah.
Okay. Question 1, I've lived here for 3 years. This is from Fiona John, from Boynup. I've lived here for 3 years and situated on crossroads of Stevens Timberley. In that time, the dust has travelled. Already trucks from Preston Rise, filling water trucks, are creating us a starting point for this problem. What will be done and why has entrance moved from the northern point where they could go onto Grey Road? The answer. The recommended conditions of approval and report include requirements for upgrades to Stephen Street and associated intersection. The site plan was modified in response to relocating the area of wastewater treatment system to a more suitable location. Question 2. Due to the fact that the existing homes in Timberley Street have their own septic systems and only 6 metres away from the proposed development, how can the developer assure us and other potential residents that contamination will not occur when water level rises? The wastewater treatment system will be required to be approved by the Department of Health. Their assessment and the associated conditions will require the system does not result in off-site impacts. Thank you. Now, I perhaps should have been a bit more indulgent of you all. Is there any questions from those people who were already asked questions that they would like to address? Briefly.
Yeah, I've got one. Has the Shire done due diligence with these park homes that might be installed in other states? And have you done any research on the outcomes of these kind of developments?
Through. Yeah, we'll take that on notice. Thank you. Well, thank you, and thank you for your courtesy in making those submissions, those questions. Okay. We now move on to the next item, and it is for applications for leave of absence. We have a request from Councillor Brian Hastie as requests a leave of absence from the 29th of January to 31st of March 26. Councillor Kieran Noonan has raised a request for a leave of absence for the months of March and April 2026. Councillor Peter McCleary has raised a request for a leave of absence for the month of March 2026. Can I have a mover? Okay. The motion is the council approves the leave of absence request from Councillor Brian Hastie from the dates 29th of January to 31st of March 26. Councillor Kieran Noonan for the months of March and April 26, and Councillor Peter McCleary for the month of March 2026. Can I have a move of that motion? Councillor Sharp, seconder. Councillor Noonan. Put that motion. All in favour? Declare that carried. I should have had Mr. CEO.
And yourself, the Shire President, for item 14.1, which is the tiny homes matter. So I would invite Councillor Mogg to read her declaration of interest and her declaration of impartiality.
Thank you, Acting CEO. I, Councillor Rosina Mogg, declare an interest in the following item to be considered by Council at its meeting to be held on the 28th of the 1st, 2026. Agenda item 14.1. The interest I wish to declare is impartiality. The nature of the interest is have attended the site previously. The extent of my interest is it happened on one occasion. I understand that the information above will be recorded in the minutes of the meeting, recorded by the Chief Executive Officer in the appropriate register. I understand that this information will also be announced by the presiding member when declarations of interest are called for, and again just before the relevant item is to be considered. I acknowledge that I have declared an impartiality interest in this item. I confirm that I am able to and will participate in the consideration of this matter impartially. My decision will be made on the merits of the information provided to Council, the relevant legislation and policy, and the facts before us, and not on any personal or external considerations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor
Mogg. Councillor Montgomery.
Thank you, Acting CEO. I, Emily Montgomery, declare an interest in the following item to be considered by Council at its meeting to be held on the 28th of January 2026, agenda item number 14.1. The interest I wish to declare is impartiality. The nature of my interest is a text message exchange between myself and the proponent. The extent of this interest is that it was one text message exchange during my candidacy. I understand that the information above will be recorded in the minutes of the meeting and recorded by the Chief Executive Officer in an appropriate register. I understand that this information will also be announced by the presiding member when declarations of interest are called for, and again just before the relevant item is to be considered. I acknowledge that I have declared an impartiality interest in this item. I confirm that I am able to and will participate in the consideration of this matter impartially. My decision will be made on the merits of the information provided to Council, the relevant legislation and policy, and the facts before us, and not on any personal or external considerations. Thank you.
Councillor Sharp.
I, Teresa Terry Sharp, declare an interest in the following item to be considered by Council this evening on the 28th of the 1st, 2026. The agenda item is 14.1, the Tiny Homes Community, PA 116/2025. I wish to declare an impartiality pursuant to Regulation 11 of the Local Government Rules of Conduct. The nature of my interest is I have visited the site at Lot 9 Stephen Street, Boyanup, in the presence of the potential developers. The extent of my interest is I have seen the site once in April 2025, and the proponents also spoke briefly to me in greeting at the Shire of Capel Mingle and Jingle in December. Now, I acknowledge that I have declared an impartiality interest in this item, and I confirm that I'm able to and will participate in the consideration of this matter impartially. My decision will be made on the merits of the information that has been provided to Council and the relevant legislation and policy and the facts that are before us, and not on any personal or external considerations. Thank you.
Shire President.
Thank you, Mr Acting CEO. I, John Ferguson, declare an interest in the following item to be considered by Council at its meeting to be held on the 28th of January 2026. Agenda item 14.1, and the interest I wish to declare is an impartiality pursuant to Regulation 11 of the Local Government Rules of Conduct Regulation 2007. The nature of my interest is I visited the site at Lot 9 Stephen Street, East Boynup, approximately 18 months ago with the proponents in attendance. The extent of my interest is I did not offer support at the time and have had no conversation with them since that occasion. I understand the information above will be recorded in the minutes of the meeting and recorded by the Chief Executive Officer in an appropriate register. I understand this information will be announced by the presiding member when declarations of interest are called for, and again just before the relevant item is to be considered. I acknowledge that I have declared an impartiality interest in this item. I confirm that I am unable to and will participate in the consideration of this matter impartially. My decision will be made on the merits of the information provided to Council, the relevant legislation and policy and the facts before us, and not on any personal or external considerations. Thank you. Thank you, Mr Acting CEO. We now move on to the next item, and that is the confirmation of minutes. Can I have a mover for the confirmation of minutes for the ordinary meeting of Council on the 26th of November 2025? Councillor McCleary moved. Seconder. Councillor Sharp. All in favour? Declare that carried unanimously. The special meetings of, the minutes of the special meeting of Council 19th of December 25 to be confirmed as a true and correct record. Can I have a mover for that, please? Councillor Mogg, second to Councillor Noonan. Those all in favour? Declare that carried. Announcements by the person presiding without discussion. Well, I don't have anything to add to other than the Shire President's activity report, which is as published. Other than to add, which I did previously, that it was my honour and pleasure to attend the citizenship ceremony on the 26th in the Council Community Centre here in Capel, and also be part of that granting of those citizenship certificates, and also then subsequently in the community awards. It was a most gratifying and uplifting experience to have. So I commend any of you who like to attend in the future to do so. We move on. Did you want anything to that? No. We now move on to item 10, petitions, deputation, presentation. We have a petition from Kevin Bray, Peppermint Grove Beach Access, and I'm not going to read it all, it's on the business paper. Can I have someone move, Councillor Moggs, moving it for...
Move it for the petition participant.
To be received?
Yes.
Councillor Moggs moved it to be received. Do I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Noonan? Any objections? All in favour? Declare that carried unanimously. We now move on to
Presentations. Presentations.
Yeah, we now move on to item 10.2, presentation, item 14.2 on the business paper, lot 9, 44 Stephen Street. Presentation from Katie Pritchard and Ashley Rose, Tiny Homes Communication, 5 minutes each, thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Shire President, Councillors, CEO and Shire officers. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Katie and along with my husband Lee, we are the proponents of the proposed tiny home community. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the Shire staff and officers who've worked on this development application. Throughout the process, officers have been professional, responsive and constructive. While there were some delays at state agency level outside of the Shire's control, we appreciate the patience shown as those technical matters were resolved. Throughout this process, we have approached this project with a strong sense of responsibility for how it will operate, who it will serve, and how it will contribute over the long term. Over the past 12 months, we've worked closely with Shire officers and our town planner to navigate the appropriate planning pathway. The result before Council this evening is a tiny home community that has been thoroughly assessed with the existing framework and is recommended for approval. Like many regional areas, this part of the southwest is experiencing change. Rising living costs and limited housing choices are making it harder for some people to remain in the places they already work, contribute and feel connected to. From a broader perspective, the proposal responds to a gap in the local housing mix. The majority of housing within the Shire consist of larger 3 and 4 bedroom homes with very limited supply of smaller options. Tiny homes are not a replacement for traditional housing, but they do have a role to play in improving housing diversity. Our project is based on the idea that communities function best when people with different backgrounds and experiences are able to live alongside one another in a connected and supportive environment, where the design makes it easy for people to step outside their homes and engage with those around them. Housing choice plays an important role in supporting that, because when people can find homes that better suit their needs and circumstances, they're more likely to remain engaged with their communities. This proposed community has been designed with that principle in mind. Intergenerational living is an important part of this vision. People with different life experiences living alongside one another can help create stronger, more resilient communities where support is informal and people feel part of a functioning neighbourhood. In an increasingly digital and fast-paced world, many people experience isolation even when they live close to others. Thoughtfully designed residential communities can help counter that by fostering connection and a sense of mutual responsibility. Importantly, the development is for tiny homes only. There will be no caravans or dongas, no short stay or tourist accommodation. It's intended to operate as a stable, long-term residential community managed by us, the owners. We will be living on site with our family. This will be our home, and that brings a strong sense of accountability, not only to future residents, but to the wider area. We care about how this community functions day to day, how it feels to live in, and how it will operate over time. We look forward to bringing this tiny home community to Boyanup and to managing it responsibly as a long-term residential community. Thank you for your time and consideration of our proposal this evening.
Thank you. Ashley Rose, thank you.
Good evening and thank you, Mr President, CEO and councillors for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Ashley Rose, Senior Planning Consultant at Harley Dykstra, who are acting on behalf of the proponent for the development application being considered at item 14.1 tonight. The recommendation before you is one of approval, so I do not propose to take up too much time talking about the application or detailing its merits, which are comprehensively addressed in the officer's report. I would also like to acknowledge and thank the Shire staff who we've worked with over the last 12 months to have the application progress to this point, which has been complex at times, partly due to the proposed development being the first of its kind in WA. However, in our experience, the communication and transparency from all parties has been constructive, responsive and focused on progressing the application, and I hope the Shire staff would feel the same. We are supportive of the officer recommendation overall and appreciate the thorough assessment undertaken. Our deputation this evening relates solely to condition 13 and advice note A included within the recommendation. Condition 13 as it's proposed requires Stephen Street to be upgraded prior to the occupation or use of the development to the satisfaction of the Shire, including the preparation and approval of detailed design plans of the infrastructure upgrades. The associated advice note, which details that the upgrades include 110 metres of Stephen Street, including the intersection at Timperley and Stephen Streets, including alternatively that the applicant may request this to be satisfied through a contribution to an equal of value. Stephen Street as it stands is considered an access road under the WAPC Livable Neighbourhoods policy. These roads are designed to accommodate between 1,000 and 3,000 vehicles per day. This portion of Stephen Street only provides access to 5 properties, of which 3 contain dwellings, all of which are located north of the subject site and are therefore more likely to head north to utilise Grey Road. Therefore, based on estimated traffic volumes, even at full capacity, the proposal would generate approximately 240 to 320 vehicle movements per day, which is well below the designed capacity and indicates 8 movements per tiny home, which is in excess of what's likely to be. Under State Planning Policy 3.6, infrastructure contributions may only be sought where existing infrastructure is inadequate, the development is considered a significant generator of demand, and the infrastructure is required to accommodate that demand. In this instance, these thresholds are not met, as is clearly detailed within the officer's report. The officer's report confirms that the proposal does not facilitate a traditional subdivision, and infrastructure obligations associated with the subdivision are intended to be addressed at such time as subdivision may be undertaken in accordance with a future developer contribution plan. Stephen Street forms part of a rural road network where unsealed roads and lower traffic volumes are an accepted and planned characteristic. The road network is stated to be designed to accommodate up to 1,000 vehicles movements by day, and the report notes that even with an additional 40 sites being occupied, it's not considered that this will cause a significant issue to give rise to the requirement of the road to be sealed and upgraded. The report further states that any requirement for sealing or upgrading of Stephen Street is likely to arise only once further development occurs in the area, not as a consequence of the current proposal. Importantly, the officer's report identifies that broader infrastructure upgrades, including roadworks, are appropriately addressed at the subdivision or structure plan stage, rather than imposed as part of a development application. Also, as noted in the officer's report, the relocatable nature of the proposed tiny homes ensures that the development does not preclude, constrain or prejudice the future subdivision of the land, and infrastructure requirements associated with subdivision, including broader road upgrades, will therefore be appropriately addressed at the subdivision stage. Based on the officer's report's findings, the requirements of SPP 3.6 and the absence of a demonstrated need arising from the proposal, we respectfully request that condition 13 and the advice note be removed from the recommended conditions. Whilst this is our preferred position, should council be minded to retain a condition relating to Stephen Street, the applicant proposes an alternative maintenance-based condition that is more proportionate and appropriate to the proposed development than a requirement for capital road upgrades. The proposed alternative condition would require an agreed road maintenance arrangement with the Shire to manage incremental impacts arising from the staged occupation rather than a premature capital works upgrade upfront. The proposed alternative condition provides a commitment to the maintenance of Stephen Street.
Sorry, you've reached your 5 minutes.
Oh,
Are
okay,
you going
sorry.
to finish very quickly?
Yep, I'll just finish up. The proposed alternative condition better reflects the level of development proposed and provides the opportunity for the Shire to monitor the ongoing use and degradation of Stephen Street as the development site is established. We would be happy to provide this as an example, a condition example, but I'd like to thank you for my time, and we're asking you to endorse the officer's recommendation and grant planning approval to item 14.1 with the removal of condition 13, and should council feel necessary, inclusion of an alternative condition to address ongoing road maintenance as appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. We now move on to item 11, motions for which previous notice has been given. Neil? Sorry. Item 11, motions for which previous notice has been given. There's nil. Questions in which previous notice has been given. Nil. And so we now move on to the business paper proper, and we move on to the Chief Executive Officer's report. Nil. And then we move on to now item 14.1. tiny home community, Lot 9, 44 Stephen Street, Boyna. Do I have a mover or a seconder for that? Councillor McCleary, moved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Noonan. Councillor McCleary.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is one of those things where we have a, so I'll move the motion, the original motion, with the intent to move an amendment to the conditions.
Yeah. You're moving the amended motion, are you, Councillor McCleary?
Alternate motion.
Alternate motion.
Yeah.
I think I should read that to the alternative motion recommendation. Sorry, in changes to 14.1 is the amendments are amend condition 1 to be reworded to include the date. All development shall be in accordance with the approved plans which form part of the development approval dated the 28th of January 2026. Amend condition 4, to include an additional point for amendments to be made to the community management plan as follows. Provide detail on long-term leasing arrangements, confirming that the intended occupation of the site will be by permanent residents through long-term lease agreements and that the site will not be utilised for short-term accommodation. Amend condition 29 as follows to clarify that the limit of cat and dogs apply to the whole site, not individual plots. The number of dogs and cats permitted on the whole of Lot 9, 44 Stephen Street is limited to a maximum of 2 cats and 2 dogs unless otherwise approved in accordance with the Shire of Capel Cats Local Law and the Shire of Capel Dogs Local Law 2017 or as otherwise amended. Councillor McCleary.
Thank you, Mr. President, for reading those out. This is a planning item, so we've got to deal with this in a planning process and the conditions that come under that legislation. There are some emotions that come out, but sticking to the planning decisions that we do. The officers have worked through the submissions, both from the proponent and from members of the public, and I thank them for contributing to this item. It's culminated in quite a few conditions which are appropriate and address a number of the issues raised. And some of those I'll point out, which is the road conditions and fixing up those sort of sections. The treatment plant, the wastewater treatment plant, it's got to come back through. At this stage, it's a development application. There'll be future building approvals required for infrastructure put on site. The conditions are quite stringent, and I believe it's quite a unique development, and it'll add to the community of Boyna.
Councillor Noonan.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Councillor McCleary, for moving the motion and for the amendments that you've made. When I first ran for council and was elected, I was very firmly of the belief that any block under an acre in size was simply too small. And it took a while for me to realise that not everybody has the same expectations in terms of what they want to live, and that people are, in fact, a lot of people are happier with the smaller residents, to the point where it's quite clear from the sales data over in Dalyellup that the very small blocks of 350 square metres, they sell they sell very, very well. The uptake is very high, and that because that's a lifestyle that suits people. So people have chosen that. We've got a very unique opportunity in the Shire of Capel. We've had this proposal brought to us with tiny homes first one in WA, so it's breaking new ground for, for the state. So it's an interesting and exciting opportunity for the Shire. What we're looking at and what we're being asked to do tonight is simply to look at it on the merits, on its whether it meets the planning criteria. And on that basis, it does. Our Shire officers have gone through and worked very, very carefully, very closely with the proponents. You can see that it's a very detailed motion. So a lot of conditions on there, 29, 30 conditions. And so I'd like to acknowledge that work that has been done both by the proponents, the developers and the Shire staff. I share some of the concerns that local and neighbouring residents have, but I also would encourage you to look at this in an optimistic fashion, in an optimistic manner. Boynup East is going to change. It's going to change radically in the next 5 to 10 years with the major structure plan that's going ahead. And you can see that, with the development that's occurring up the hill to the east of Boynup. This tiny homes project is actually only going to be just a very small component of that. That big change is happening. That big change is going to come. That big change has been called for and meets a need that is evident in the community. The need for housing in the southwest and in the Bunbury region is dire. So this goes a long way. The structure plan goes a long way to addressing some of those problems, and this is a small part of it. And those tiny homes will suit a particular cohort of people, and I'm sure that with good planning, good management, and good neighbourly interaction, that it will be a tremendous success for Boynup, for the Shire of Capel, for the southwest. So I'm very, very interested to see how it goes. I think that the Shire definitely will play a part in helping to facilitate things. We have discussed as a Shire at informal meetings the implications of this in terms of, as you say, the development of Timperley Road, whether footpaths are going to be needed. That will place an impost potentially on the Shire, which will be met by the entire ratepayer base of the Shire. But so it's not something where...
Councillor Noonan, your 5 minutes has elapsed.
Already?
And
okay, I'll wrap it up.
It could be suggested you're going off topic slightly.
Yeah. So I would like to thank the proponents, Councillor McCleary, for bringing the motion, and I will support it.
Any speakers against? Councillor Shiano.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I warn you I'm probably going to need to use all my 5 minutes tonight because I do have quite a bit that I want to address, and I think for me there are 4 key aspects that we need to consider when considering the application or the proposal before us tonight. And the first is the local planning scheme, of course. The second is the Boynup East structure plan, which we've already heard a little bit about tonight. The third, sorry, that was the second. The third is the Caravan and Camping Act, which is essentially the enabling legislation under this particular land use. And fourth, I think, is a particularly important planning provision around how wastewater and sewerage is managed on a site, particularly in this area of level of existing urban development. And I just want to sort of talk about this, the planning scheme first, because I think this is probably where the grey area begins, and that is around the provisions within our local planning scheme to consider a park home park in an urban development. And essentially what the local planning scheme says in that regard is that it is really up to the full discretion of council to consider this type of land use in an area of urban development. And of course, you are reminded, Mr. President, that this is an area of urban development as outlined in the structure plan. But it's meant to be, or the way that I interpret it within the local planning scheme and that 18.6, is that it's meant to be considered, yes, to the discretion of council, but in consideration of any existing development plans or structure plans. And so that, I guess, really brings us on to the Boyne Up East structure plan and the question around, well, does the park home park land use, is it consistent with the Boyne Up East structure plan? And I guess in short, I'd say I don't believe it does. I don't believe it is consistent with the Boyne Up East structure plan. And I think the key component there is around the density. So, the area of which this lot is on is within our structure plan is R20. And admittedly, R20 is typically an average block size of about 450 square metres. And this particular block is 2,000 odd square metres, but covering off 40 or a maximum of 40 dwellings. And so, look, you divide that by 40 and you do get into this rough area of about 550 square metres per dwelling. But the reality is that the proposal before us is around lease areas of 160 square metres of properties actually squeezing onto 160 square metre envelopes or development areas, because there's still other infrastructure, roads and various other things and natural buffers and on-site handling of wastewater treatment and sewage that has to also occur on those 2,000 odd square metres. And also the fact that any other development of a level of R20 would be expected to go through far more stringent development in the way of the actual development and paving of the road to a standard that is suitable to R20. Whereas what the item before council is expecting is that many of those things that would be required of such a development at an R20 density are being waived in the way, and we've even heard the proponents consulting us tonight around reducing the level of maintenance and work needed to be done on Stevens Street. And quite frankly, that's not how it works when we deal with these types of applications in any other sense of the term or under any other land use at this level of density. So I think the structure plan is very clear. I don't think that this is consistent with an R20. But that sort of brings us on to this land use discussion around why we've ended up with a park home use, land use in this case. And like I said, I think council still has its full discretion to consider that, but I think it needs to consider that in relation to the structure plan. I don't believe that park home park was the correct choice of land use. And the proponents consultant agrees with me, because they've said very clearly in their comments that they didn't go down that avenue because they consider that that is, in fact, for short-term accommodation. And that the actual definition of a park home park is a caravan park in every term, except the fact that there's no caravans and there's no camping, there's only park homes. And that's what the regulations say. It also opens up this other challenge of the fact that the development now requires a licence under the Caravan and Camping Act. Now, we have conditioned that in the recommendation that's been put forward by staff, and that is important, because the onus is not on us to obtain that licence necessarily to operate. But I actually question whether or not the site would be able to achieve such a licence, because the licence is for, of course, a caravan park. And if the site is not operating as a caravan park, which is one of the conditions of which have been moved in the amended recommendation, then the question is raised, well, how can it achieve its licence and how can it operate? Now, of course, I think a lot of the other tests within the licensing around a caravan park or park home park, we'll clarify it's a park home park, which for the purpose of the Act is a caravan park where there's no caravans, only park homes. There is a requirement for on-site caretaker, live-in. There has to be people there permanently. They have to be contactable. There has to be a registry. There has to be an arrangement, a contractor, and all these other things. Not saying that they're not doing that or that there's no proposal to do that.
5 minutes.
Yeah. Could I have an extension of a few minutes according to the standing orders? Is that okay? I probably have about 1 minute to go.
Well, let's proceed. Stick to the 1 minute, please.
Yeah, no worries. Yep. So I think on that basis, I don't actually necessarily think that Park Home Park is the correct land use. In fact, I think the only suitable way to have moved forwards with such a thing would have been a subdivision or a strata arrangement, which would have significantly changed the business model based around, I think, the application, which is based off leasing those 160 square metre lots to people who have to bring on their own park home, which is what the Caravan Camping Act says, of course. So that is, of course, in line with that. So that brings me on to the final thing, which is just in regards to the sewerage, and that is just...
You've had your minute.
Was that a minute already? These are quick 5 minutes. In my very closing sentence then, just in regards to the sewerage, I tend to agree with the department's comments that they do not support and that it couldn't be conditioned to be resolved. And that for that reason, Mr President, I won't be supporting the officer's recommendation. And I will foreshadow an alternative in case this motion does fail.
Thank you, Councillor Shiano. Is there any other speakers for? Any speakers against? I will take a moment to respond to some of the comments that Councillor Shiano made, and it seems to me that the interpretation of the East Boynup structure plan and the condition or the requirement to consider it or not consider it is left fairly open. There's no suggestion that we should adopt a position of refusal, nor is there actually a particular suggestion when you read the detail that we should necessarily adopt a position of approval other than by assessing it on its merits. Now, as to the issue as to whether it's a park home park, looking at the regulations, you can't have a caravan on a park home park. There is a rather unique and one might say almost curious designation of a land use, and you can't camp on it. But it also says there must be residence and occupancy. In other words, it's got to be permanently occupied. And so I think whilst there may be some merit in what Councillor Shiano says on one side of the equation, I think it's entirely within our remit to find ourselves in a position whether we approve it or don't approve it. So I'll leave it at that, and I'll ask the mover.
Thank you, Mr President. And thank you, Councillor Shiano and Councillor Noonan. It has been one that I personally have spent a lot of time reading through all the material, and I do accept Councillor Shiano's review of the process. But we're living in a unique time and affordability of houses and stuff. Now, that's not a point for the planning thing, but I think what's been presented to us, yes, it's unique, but there's been a lot of conditions in there to control what happens in there. So, look, I recommend that we accept or approve the motion as we've been discussing.
Before we go any further, Chairman, can I have a point of clarification, please?
Yes, certainly, Councillor.
And we heard from a community member earlier about item 13. Do we need to take that into account now, or is that something we can...
No.
Not at all?
No, well, no councillor has moved an amendment to adopt that, so that might be for a future date, I suspect. I'll refer to the CEO on this, defer to the CEO, but I don't think we'll be dealing with that at the moment, but I'll defer to the CEO.
Thank you, Mr President. No, we won't be dealing with that because no councillor has moved an amendment in regard to that.
Yeah, thank you, President. See, I just witnessing that the community members here, so I think it's important that she knew what we were doing.
Thank you, Councillor Voyers. I now put the motion. Those in favour? Councillor Noonan, Councillor Sharp, Councillor Ferguson, Councillor McCleary and Councillor Montgomery. Those against? Councillor Boyers, Councillor Shiano and Councillor Mogg. That's carried. We now move on to the item 14.2, which has been withdrawn. And so we'll move on, which was a contaminated sites policy. We now move on to community and corporate reports, item 15.1. Can I have a mover for that motion, please? Councillor McCleary, you look bemused. Have I done something wrong?
It was just getting a clarification that the withdrawn 14.2.
Yep. Yeah, just to restate, 14.2 was withdrawn. Okay. And so when we move on to 15.1, the 2024-25 annual report. Can I have a mover for that motion, please?
Councillor Shiano.
Sorry, Councillor Shiano. Second to Councillor Mogg. Councillor Shiano.
Thank you, Mr. President. Nothing particularly to add here, just to note the Shire's 2024-25 annual report and the calling of the general meeting of electors for Monday the 23rd of February 2026 at 6 p.m. at Hugh Kilpatrick Hall in Boyna.
Thank you. Councillor Mogg.
Reserve, thank you.
Any objections? Any speakers against? So, Councillor Shiano, closing. Foregoes the closing. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 15.2. Council notes the quarterly progress report, quarter 2, 1 October 31st December 2025 of the Shire of Capel's Corporate Business Plan 25-29. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Mogg, seconder. Councillor Noonan. Councillor Mogg.
Thank you, Chair. I move the motion as read.
Councillor Noonan.
Yep, thank you. Nothing to add.
Any speakers against? Councillor Mogg. Forgoes the right of reply. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Declare that carried unanimously. 15.3, Corporate Risk Register Quarterly Report. Council endorses the Corporate Risk Register and accept the proposed treatments. Could I have a mover for that, please? Councillor Mogg.
Seconder.
A seconder? Oh, sorry, Councillor Boyers. Councillor Mogg.
Thank you, Chair. Again, move the motion as read.
Councillor Boyers.
Yes, agreed as read.
Speakers against? No speakers against. Councillor Mogg. I'll put the motion. Declare that carried unanimously. Item 15.4. Shire of Capel final audit report, year ending 30th of June 25. There's a recommendation there, and those of you who read the business paper, very interesting items in the business paper. Can I have a mover for that motion, please? Councillor McCleary, second to Councillor Mogg. Councillor McCleary.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is item 6.4, isn't it?
I'm sorry?
Just catching up with you.
15.4.
I'll move the motion as read. And I note it's a reasonable outcome for the auditor's report.
Thank you. Councillor Mogg. Any speakers against? Councillor McCleary. Defers his right of reply. I'll put that motion. Declare that carried unanimously. The Independent Audit and Risk Improvement Committee member review. Item 15.5. Can I have a move for that item, please? Councillor McCleary, and a seconder, not a member of the panel. Councillor Sharp. Councillor McCleary.
I'll move the motion as read. It's pretty straightforward.
Councillor Sharp. Any speakers against? Councillor McCleary. All in favour? Declare that carried unanimously. S- 15.6. Tender, Delhi Up Sporting Lights tender, Delhi Up Sports Lighting tender at Ferndale Park. Can I have a move for that item, please? Councillor Mogg, seconder. Councillor Noonan. Councillor Mogg.
Thank you, Chair. I move the motion as read and just add that can't wait for this lighting to be installed, and I'm sure the community groups that use this facility will be too. Thank you.
Councillor Noonan.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Mogg, for moving the motion. It is a significant investment that the Shire is making, and it will provide a great service which will help those sporting teams which are really lining up, looking for access to practice on that playing field. So it'll be really good. Thank you.
Speakers against? Councillor Mogg. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Declare that carried unanimously. Item 15.7, Native Title Settlement Land Consultation. Can I have a move for that motion, please? Councillor Noonan. Councillor McCleary. Councillor Noonan.
Thank you, Mr. President. The motion is that Council support the proposed transfer of 2 parcels of land located within the Shire of Capel to the Noongar Budjar Land Sub-Proprietary Limited as part of the West Australian Government South West Native Title Settlement, and that Council requests that the Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage note and consider the conservation value of the land as identified through the internal consultation process. I think it's good that these particular areas of land have been identified with through a process of consultation. The importance or the value, the intrinsic value, the flora and the fauna contained within these particular parcels of land has been identified and is understood and is appreciated by the Noongar elders involved, and also by the Wadjala, the Shire officers and the DPLH officers who've been involved in this procedure. So I think it's a very good outcome, and I look forward to seeing that land be used in a very cultural and environmentally sensitive and supportive way. So I support the motion.
Councillor McCleary, was it the second?
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Councillor Noonan. I concur with your sentiments on this recommendation.
Any speakers against? Right of reply, Councillor Noonan. Forgoes the right of reply. I put the motion. Those in favour? Declare that carried unanimously. We now move on to the really tricky stuff. 15.8, accounts paid during the month of November. I won't read the entire recommendation on the business paper, other than the fact that we need to vote for it. Those in favour? Could I have a mover, please? 15.8. Councillor Mogg, second to Councillor Sharp. Councillor Mogg.
Thanks, Chair. I move the motion as read. Thank you.
Councillor Sharp.
Yes, thank you. I also move the motion as read. Thank you.
Any speakers against? No speakers against. I'll put the motion. Oh, sorry, write a reply, Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Chair. Acknowledgement to our Shire staff who prepare these reports for us and with due diligence and thoroughness. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Declare that carried unanimously. (15.9) Accounts paid during the month of December. Can I have a mover for this motion, please? This item, please. Councillor Mogg. Councillor Shiano. Councillor Mogg.
Thank you, Chair. Again, I move the motion as read. Thank you.
Councillor Shiano. Any speakers against? No speakers against. Councillor Mogg, write a reply.
No.
I'll put the motion. Those in favour, declare that carried unanimously. Item 15.10, Financial Report 30th November 25. Can I have a mover for that, please? Councillor McCleary. Councillor Montgomery, seconded. Councillor McCleary.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll move the motion as read.
Councillor Montgomery. Any speakers against? Councillor McCleary. Put the motion. Those in favour, declare that carried unanimously. Item 15.11, Financial Reports 31st December 25. Can I have a move for that item, please? Councillor McCleary. Yes? And second to Councillor Montgomery. Councillor McCleary.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll move the motion as read and note, which I could have done on the last one, is there's substantial underspend in employee costs for this year, which I'm hoping we'll see some updates and reasoning on that in the half-yearly budget review.
Do you wish to direct that as a question, Councillor McCleary?
No, it's all right.
Okay.
I'm just highlighting that there is a substantial saving at the moment due to shifts in people leaving and people coming, and we've
Councillor
been
Montgomery.
working through that.
Okay. Any speakers against? Councillor McCleary. I'll put the motion. Those in favour, declare that carried unanimously. New business of an urgent nature. Well, there's none that I'm aware of. Probably question time. No. Is there any questions from the remaining audience? No. Motions without notice. There's no motions without notice. Notices of motion for consideration of the extraordinary meeting of council. There's none that have been received. And items for consideration behind a closed door. There is none. So we moved on to item 21. So unless the CEO advises me that I've left something out, no, I declare the meeting closed. And thank councillors and staff for your contribution, and thank the public in attendance for their courtesy and good grace while this matter has been conducted. Thank you.